Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of your Fredcast. My name's Gary Jetstone, ladies and gentlemen, and here I am one more time, one more day with you guys. So thank you very much in advance. You've been here with me during all the or almost all the episodes. It's really a great pleasure, an honor being talking to you and being hopefully having the hopefully the opportunity of helping you out with your English skills, your English listening skills, and of course the increasing of your vocabulary here in the most various topics we talk about in this episode. And just as I always say, it's an episode about learning English. It's the main focus here is getting you to practice English, to have contact, because some of my students here don't really get to have a significant contact with the English language. They're afraid, afraid is the best word here, to listen to podcasts or watch, international content in English, American or British or Australian, you name it, because they're afraid of not understanding what the people say, considering that such contents are produced mostly to native speakers, right? So here you have the opportunity of listening to a Brazilian English teacher that hopefully has considerable amount of knowledge with English and eloquence, talking about the topics that will get you to benefit from all these episodes. So without further ado, let's get started to the topic. Today we're going to talk about plane crash. This is something more common than we would like to have, right? And terribly unfortunately, last Friday, 1 week ago right now, we had this terrible plane crash that victimized 62 souls, 62 people. I'm really, just like everyone, sorry, having understanding, having the possibility of talking about it. I can just convey my deepest sorrows, to the families. And if you get to know someone who was on a plane, I'm really my biggest condolences. But this got me thinking, and it was no coincidence that today we're going to talk about this specific topic, that is plane crash. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I still don't know if you have gone for your cup of coffee, water, beer, as I always say, whatever it takes for you to relax and join me into this interesting discussion. And I'm going to get straight to the point right now. May the 2nd or the 3rd, to be more specific, March 1996. This is when the plane crash topic got into my brain as a subject that would spike my curiosity. If you have a good memory, what day this was, you know what I'm talking about. But if you don't have, let me enlighten you. Basically, this was the day that the Mamonas Assassinas plane crashed against Cantareira Hill. All right. It was during the night. It was, I said 2 and 3 because the crash happened during the night. It was almost midnight. And then, of course, we only learned of that. We only heard of it the next day. So it was March the 3rd. Okay. I'll never forget. I was 7 years old and I got up, normal Sunday. And then I went to my grandma's house next to mine back in the days. And my uncle was watching the TV, and he just he had just as far as I can remember, if my memory serves me well, he had just turned the TV on, and he just got that news piece of news, that they were dead, that Mamonas were dead. And I was there with him, and I remember I didn't say a word. I mean, what could I say? I was 7. I was just like shocked, and I will never forget that day, because of course, as any kid in Brazil, I was a big fan of the guys. The truth of the matter is that I got to be even more fan of them years later, when I started understanding the lyrics, because like we would sing songs about I even forgot the name in English. Thank God. About group sex, right? Suruba, we say in Portuguese. And I, as a 6 and 7 year old, I didn't have a clue of what they were talking about, and that extended to the rest of their songs. But when I grew of age, when I grew up a little more, a few years later, I was like, when I was 10 or 11, I was pretty able to understand exactly what they were talking about. So yeah, this is my history with the contact, the receiving the bad news of a plane crash. Of course, thank God, thank goodness, I never had anything in my family, But the truth of the matter is that I grew up because of this situation, having how can I say that, soft spot, okay, for not soft spot for plane crashes, but that was something like every time that a plane crashes, it catches my attention. Well, I believe that everyone must be like that, at least here in Brazil, right? If not because of what happened to Mamonas, it was like a very, very young enough. You won't remember, of course. You weren't even born back in the days, but it was really sad, We had like the death of Senna a few years before, but there's no comparison, because Senna was racing his car 300 kilometers per hour, and then he crashed against a wall, This is something that, of course, you never expected to happen, but deep down, that can happen, While the band of 5 young guys, brilliant artists, probably very good human beings. Those who got to know them in a personal level can tell, but apparently good people, talented, loved all around in Brazil, just out of the blue, just in a snap, they're gone, I think this is the main point of plane crashes to me, is that there's like, it's so fast and so intense, and they're gone, It's not like they're sent to the hospital and then they die a few years later, like, for example, bullet shots, for example, but anyways, going back to the thing, to history, right? So after what happened to Mamonas, I remember that the media started talking about Rick Valens, like making a parallel, a contrast, a comparison with what happened to Rick Valens. And then I got to know that Rick Valens back in the days, I was 7, I absolutely didn't know who Rick Valens was. And then I learned he was a famous artist in the United States who years and years before 1996 had passed away in 1957, to be more specific, when he died. Sorry, 1959. Okay, my memory is not working well today, but you guys tell me in the comment section below. Then I understand that there was this guy years earlier, and his story was even as equally sad, because he was terrified of flying. He didn't want to get on a plane, but he was convinced, because he just got pretty successful in the United States back in the days, and he had to deliver, shows, to make shows all around the country, and just like by driving, that would substantially cut his possibilities. So he was convinced to fly, and then, a few months later, he was unlucky enough. I don't know if that's the right way to say that. I don't know if there's luck involved or out of luck in such things, such fate things, such destiny things. But anyways, he was unlucky enough to be on a plane that small plane that crashed, somewhere which I don't remember, but in the United States. Yeah, and he died at age 18 or 17. He was really, really young, a teenager. But then years later, I saw the movie, and it's an interesting movie called La Bamba. I really recommend you to watch this. It's very, very good. That's nice. The understanding more of the story. I mean, yeah. So okay, this was, and then the years passed, and then of course, lots of other plane crashes happen in Brazil. Some of them big planes, some of them small planes, but there was lots of them. But I just remember that we had 2 years of plane crashes. 2 years of plane crashes, like really, really close to one another. There was one that happened in 2006, and another happened like almost a year later in 2007. The one that the plane didn't manage to land, to get to the land, and just passed, and collided against the building, a building that was right in front of the airport. Like, everyone on the plane died, of course, and lots of people who were on the building died too. So yeah, that was really, really sad. And that was the last commercial flight accident in Brazil until last Friday, unfortunately. So yeah, all these years, during all these years of no accidents with commercial flights, it helped me to feel safer, on airplanes, on commercial flights. But this last episode really dragged my attention to think more about it. And I'll be honest with you guys, I'm really, really scared of flying these days. I don't mean to scare you guys or to disencourage you to fly, because it is necessary, especially if your profession requires so. But I'm gonna tell you that I'm a little bit scared of it. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm gonna talk a bit more about it in the upcoming part. So let me share with you guys my history of flying. The first time I got on the plane was 2008. I flew Air France to France. It was May 2008. And then in 2009, I heard, while in England, I was living in England back in this year, I heard the news of the Air France plane that disappeared in the ocean, somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. And okay, I didn't pay much attention to that. I was just like, okay, that's one more. Unfortunately, we have these things in Brazil, although this wasn't in Brazil. Technically, it was in the Atlantic Ocean. But yeah, it's coming from Brazil, so yeah, let's put it in Brazilians' account. And then yeah, but just a few years ago, I stopped to think like, hey, was it this airplane the same in which I flew to England? Maybe, because it is the very same trajectory, the very same path, the very same way, the very same flight, considering the starting, the departure, and the arrival points, right? So could have been. Unfortunately, I didn't take any pictures of the tickets, and I don't even know what good would that do, but I got this curiosity. There is a big chance of the very plane that I flew on, and probably certainly millions of Brazilians flew on too, of course, I'm not the only one, was the one that disappeared in the ocean. And I'm not gonna get into the specifics of this situation. It's an unfortunate situation. But then today I can help but look back and go like, wow, you know. But anyways, another plane crash that really got into my brain, so to say, right? I hope that in this episode I managed to talk more and put it out, you know, the feelings I have stored in my mind, in my heart related to this topic. But this was a very unfortunate one. It was in 2015 where a co-pilot with serious mental problems, to say the least, he just decided that he would die that day. He was depressed and stuff, and then he just got into the cockpit. I think that's the name, or the pilot's cabin. I mean, he was there because he was the co-pilot, but he convinced the pilot to leave the cockpit, which is something normal that happens, of course. And then he locked himself in the cockpit and just went to the controlling buttons of the controlling panel of the airplane and just crashed it, you know, intentionally against the French Alps, killing, of course, himself and everyone else in the airplane. Well, that must be really hard, you know, because people like they were the highest possible. I'm not gonna say names, terms, and metrics here because I don't wanna, you know, embarrass myself. But they were really high, and then they had like a couple of minutes going down, you know. So can you put yourself on their shoes? The people inside that airplane, they were seeing the plane going down. They were seeing the pilot and the whole flight crew desperate, kicking, punching, probably scratching, I don't know, the door or the cockpit for, you know, in the hope that the co-pilot would change his mind and not do that. And they were basically minutes understanding, yeah, we're going to die. That must be really terrifying, you know, different from what happened to Mamonas in 96, that they were just probably sleeping on the plane. They didn't even see that coming, you know. Their crash was like, wow, poof, a couple seconds and it's gone, you know. That must be really hard, you know, having like minutes. I can't really think much about it, but I do. You shouldn't think much about it, but yeah, if you like me, you probably would do that the same. So, going back to my history with flying, I flew a couple of times in my whole life, not so much, because I went to Europe. So there were like, trying to make a quick math here, 7 or 8 times. And then the last time I flew was last time I got on an airplane was in 2014. Yeah, here in Brazil. I made a short trip. But every time I got on the plane, I really feel like, oh my gosh, this could be my last day on Earth. This could be my last day in my life, you know. I'm probably a little pessimist, because let us not forget that airplanes are still the safest transportation means, right? It's way safer flying than going by car, right? Statistically speaking. So yeah, you know, but that's my history, just so you understand where I come from, you know. So it's not a situation, let's put it this way, with plane crashes, because I passed through something like that, you know, having, you know, lost someone I love or close or friend, you know. It's just because I just think that this is really hard, you know. I mean, not that I just think, I know for a fact that this is really hard for family and friends and people who love the ones who go away tragically like that. And we never know, right? What the future reserves to us. I may go, you know, in a situation like that in the future. Who knows? I really hope not, but who knows? God knows. So yeah, to go to the last part of this episode, the whole point of this discussion is understanding, in my opinion, is understanding the difference between commercial flights and private planes. Remember when I said that the last big accident in Brazil was in 2007, and then we had 2009 in the ocean, the Air France plane. Yeah, but when we talk about private planes, small planes, there are crashes every year. Okay, there are crashes every year. And just one curious statistic here, I just heard that yesterday on the news. Did you know that August is statistically the worst day to fly in Brazil? The worst month. August is statistically the worst month to fly in Brazil, meaning that the most of the plane crashes in Brazil happen in August. That's insane, isn't it? I think it's probably a coincidence, or there's something in the air, like the temperature is more, it's more inclined to help planes crashing in August. I don't know. But from now on, I'm never gonna fly in August again. No, I'm just kidding. If necessary, of course I will. But yeah, but about commercial flights. So all these years, and just we had this recent, and let's be honest here, it was in a small company. Okay, if we just consider like big companies, like there wasn't until ever since 2009, in Brazil, of course. And I was really, for lack of a better word, proud of Brazil because of that, right? Of course, there was the Chapecoense plane crash in 2016. Yeah, 16. But again, that was a big plane, but like it's a private flight, it's not a commercial flight. So I was really proud, and I still am really proud of aviation in Brazil. I think that in general they're really good at what they do, right? Because flying is, I have to say that it is really safe. It's expensive, but on one hand it's good that it is expensive, because the more money comes in, the fewer chances of tragedies like that happened a week ago. So I really believe that if you want a word of advice from me, that is, I am someone curious, not an expert or something, but someone curious about planes, and like what are the reasons, what are the circumstances that contribute to plane crashes. Let me tell you this, I would never, it's easy to say that after what happened last Friday, but like even before that, I would probably not fly in that company, because the relates that are coming out to us of the low quality of the airplanes. And don't get me wrong here, it's not a matter of like, oh my gosh, air conditioning, I cannot fly, I am a prince. No, because if air conditioning is not working properly, if the seats are torn or old, what are, you can help, or you shouldn't help but think, what else are there, where's the money going to? What else in this airplane is not okay as it could be, or as it should be, So getting back to what I said, if you want a word of advice from me, if that serves you from anything, don't fly with cheap companies, all right? I don't mean to be unfair here. That may be, now and in the future, cheaper tickets, but it's something that I personally am really skeptical about. I really think that we should be skeptical and fly with big companies, okay? Because it's been like almost a decade, more than a decade without any plane crash, and hopefully let's have 50 more years without any. Let's never have one again, not even in a small planes. Although I just find it really difficult to believe that small planes won't crash anymore, because small planes are usually belong to are usually private properties, and who knows if the owners give it the proper assistance, the proper maintenance, and the numbers speak alone. Number of plane crashes in small airplanes is gigantic, or at least big, or at least bigger, way bigger than it should be. But that's it for this episode. I really thank you for your lovely company one more time. I see you in the next episode. Bye bye.